Sunday School teacher, I'm glad that you've joined us for our time of preparation and study. Let me encourage you to go ahead and get your Bible, get your outline, get your paper and your pen, and let's study together as we get ready for Sunday, February the 2nd. So we're working on Sunday, February the 2nd. The title of this lesson is Loved. The point of the lesson, the thing that we want our people walking out with, is that loving God with all of one's being leads to obedience. Loving God with all of one's being leads to obedience. Get that? Obedience doesn't lead to loving God. Loving God leads to obedience. Well, we're going to be in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Let me remind you that much of the book of Deuteronomy consists of the 3 sermons that Moses preached to the Israelites before his death. Prior to his death, Moses desired to impart words of covenant instruction and pastoral exhortation. The context of this session focuses on the first part of Moses' second sermon, and it deals with the general covenant stipulations. Deuteronomy 6 presents the basic principles of characterizing this covenant relationship between the Lord and His people. So let's look at these. Deuteronomy 6, verses 1 through 3, and there we see the promise. This is the command, the statutes and the ordinances the Lord your God has commanded me to teach you, so that you may follow them in the land you are about to enter and possess. Do this so that you may fear the Lord your God all the days of your life by keeping all of His statutes and commands I am giving you, your son and your grandson, and so that you may have a long life. Listen, Israel, be careful to follow them, so that you may prosper and multiply greatly, because the Lord your God of your forefathers has promised you a land flowing with milk and honey. So here we see the promise. Moses reminded the Israelites that he had taught them the Lord's law so that they would follow the law once they entered into the promised land. In verse 1, the 3 terms in verse 1, this is a command, this is the statutes, this is an ordinance. Those 3 terms together can be viewed to constitute the entire covenant document, all that they were to do in following the Lord. So those 3 terms there of command, statutes, ordinance, that's all of it. The Lord charged Moses to teach the Israelites this covenant requirement. He taught the Israelites so that they would do the statutes. And in verse 2, showing fear of the Lord by following His directives also resulted in a long life, and their long lives also symbolize God's blessing. In other words, if they lived a long life, that meant that God was in favor of them and they were His obedient people. In verse 3, he says in verse 3, listen, Israel. The term that is there is more than just hearing. It means a summons to obedience. When he says listen, he's not just saying pay attention or hear what I'm saying. He's saying you need to do what I'm telling you. Their careful obedience would result in prosperity